Podcast Answer Man, episode number 242.
Entertaining, educational, and encouraging content that makes a difference.
This is GSPN.TV.
Join the community.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Podcast Answer Man. My name is Cliff Ravenscraft, and this, my friends, is the podcast about podcasting, helping you take your show to the next level. It doesn't matter if you're a brand new podcaster, if you have been podcasting for many years, or you haven't quite yet recorded that first episode. There's something we can all do to take our show to the next level. That's right, my friends, and one of the things that I have been doing a lot lately is thinking about the new year. I am recording this on Thursday, December 29th, 2011, and certainly have thoughts about how I'm going to be taking things to the next level. If you go to gspn.tv/shows, one of the things that I've already spent some time doing is kind of updating my lineup of shows that I am currently producing. Before, I just used to have a list of all the shows that we have produced at GSPN, which was, about 22, 24 different shows. And I decided that, there are some shows that have no longer been in production that, to be honest with you, they're not things that I really want to heavily promote. It's possible to get them on our website, but I didn't want to make it easy because honestly those things are not evergreen content, and it's content that really isn't the things that I really want to point people to when they come to the site. So what I've done is I even took the shows that are not in current production now, but things that I still do want to promote that are great for going back into the archives. I've kind of rearranged things. So now it starts off with, here are our active Balanced Living podcast. Here's our active Business and Technology podcast. Here are our active Entertainment podcast. And then here's our previous shows that are not currently in production. And so I've kind of been honing things down a little bit. One of the things that I've done is I've whittled things down to where I have 10 current podcasts that are actively being produced at this time. We typically have a minimum of about 5 to 7 episodes per week, and we have oftentimes as many as 10 to 15 episodes that we'll produce in a single week. And I've just really felt kind of like this calling, if you will, or just this urge to kind of focus a little bit more. I realized that I have a couple different shows where comments and feedback are coming in, and people say, you know what, this feedback that I'm calling in, I'm not sure which show it's for. It could fit here, it could fit there, it could fit here. And that right there, my friends, is a very telling sign of the fact that I have fragmented my audience. And I know that if content can fit in multiple different shows, then maybe, I've kind of spread myself a little bit too thin. And I currently, in my mind, I have 3 shows that are in production that I produce every single week that honestly could fit into one single show. Now, the only kickback to this is that those other shows are, 2 of those shows have co-hosts. And one of the reasons I enjoy doing those shows is because I love that weekly interaction with those co-hosts. And so these are difficult decisions that we have to make at times. And, sometimes it goes all according to, what is the mission and the purpose behind what you do. There are things that I could think of as far as, incorporating those co-hosts into segments onto the combined one show. And it's not fresh in my mind because honestly, this has been something that I have been thinking about in our business meetings. And for things to happen in 2012 that I foresee, the things that I envision, I really think that having a written out mission statement and a clear understanding of what are my core values. One of the biggest mistakes many podcasters make when they start a podcast is they think, they don't understand why they're creating a podcast. They love the technology, they love listening to them, and it's like, why don't I do one? The reasoning is, why shouldn't I? And then the question should be, why should I? Why do I want to create a podcast? What is the purpose of this podcast? What are the core values that I believe in? Where am I taking a stance? What do I want to communicate? And I think sometimes, just take a half day, take a day, take a weekend, come up with some core values that drive you, that define who you are and what you believe. What are the non-negotiables? What is the mission and the purpose behind what you're doing? And then just watch that launch you into taking things to the next level. When I did that for GSPN.TV, it certainly did. It propelled us forward. And I'm just shocked and amazed that I never got around to creating a mission statement for my business side of things, the consulting, coaching side of things, and then the idea of creating a personal mission statement. Never really given that much attention or anything as well. So those are things that I hope to accomplish perhaps by the end of 2011, but it's certainly within the first few weeks of 2012, if not. So we're going to turn to the voicemail feedback hotline, answer a couple questions. Let's see here. We are going to start things off with Bill, who is calling in about the like button. And just real quickly, there was an episode where I talked about the share bar, which I think I'm now using Sexy Bookmarks, and the fact that some of these tools where you click the like button, it will give you the ability to kind of preview what that post is going to look like with a little thumbnail image and all of that stuff. And one of the issues I was having is it kept pulling out some kind of weird or odd image out of my sidebar instead of choosing something that would be more appropriate to the post. Bill's given us some insight here that I think is very helpful. Bill, take it away.
This is a comment for Cliff from the podcast Answer Man. Just wanted to send a message about the preview image that is showing up when you hit the like button on your website. I was actually having that same problem, and what I found is that what Facebook does is it actually pulls in the first GIF or JPEG image and uses that. So if you have an image actually in your content, it should pull that image. But if you don't have a photo actually in your content, like maybe it was a video post, it'll then go in your sidebar and pull the first GIF or JPEG. Now, it doesn't pull PNG, so I had a PNG file for quite a while on my sidebar that I actually changed to a GIF, and that was sort of like my profile. If you go to billhutchison.org, you can see on the right-hand side a YWAM blogger logo. That one used to be a .png file. I've since changed that to a GIF file because it was skipping that one to go to the next one, the Bloggers for Birth Kits. But now what it does is it pulls in that first .gif. If I do create a video post, or just a post with no images at all, or a post with .png files. Just thought I'd send that through, see if that helps you out, because I know that it took me a little while to figure that out for when I hit the like on, for when someone hits like on one of my posts for Facebook.
All right, Bill, thank you very much for that amazing bit of information. This is something that had been extremely puzzling to me, something that I definitely wanted to get around to looking up at some point down the road, but really kind of low on the priority level. And so you calling this in as feedback has certainly brought some light to the situation, and I really appreciate it. And it makes perfect sense because ever since I've used a Mac, I use a lot of the screen capture tools that are built into the Mac and stuff like that. And I do a lot with PNG files. Yes, I know they're much larger and that I could save a lot of space and loading time and things of that nature. I don't use a lot of images, well, except for my sidebar. But here's the thing. I'd been noticing that when people click on the Facebook like button, or when I'm trying to link to something from my site, it seems to always pull some kind of weird graphic right out of my sidebar off of GSPN or Podcast Answer Man, and hardly ever a graphic that I want it to. And it seems to be the same graphic over and over again. And I realized that is a JPEG image, and it's ignoring all the other images because they're all PNG files. So this is great information for me. So what I could do is all those static images that are in my sidebar or maybe in the introductory content on my categories that I do in Thesis, I could actually say anything that I don't want to become a preview thumbnail in Facebook. I'll just make sure that all of those are very nicely compressed. If you can do that with a PNG file, I don't know, but anyway, I'll make sure that they're decent size, but also do PNG files on those. And then I can make sure that when I'm doing a post, if I actually want a specific image to be the thumbnail or the thumbnail from that post, then I'll make sure that that is a JPEG image, and any other images in that post are PNGs. So that is amazing information. Thank you so much, Bill, for calling that in. All right, next up, we're going to Daniel from the Special Chronicles podcast, and he's over at specialchronicles.com, and he actually decided to go ahead and do text-to-speech for us this week. So, Daniel, take it away.
This is Daniel Smrokowski from the Special Chronicles podcast at specialchronicles.com, and I have a couple of questions for you, the podcast answer man. The first question I have for you is about the FeedBurner feed. When I look at the stats, number of downloads, subscribers, etc., there are two versions of FeedBurner, an old version and a new version, and the old version, the number of downloads is a higher number, whereas the new version of FeedBurner, it's a little bit less. So, how do we know which is accurate? In the next few weeks, I'm going to work on taking a new design that I designed for specialchronicles.com into a WordPress site, because currently I'm using iWeb for my podcast and WordPress for the blog portion of Special Chronicles, but in a few weeks, hopefully by January 7, 2012, because it's the 2-year anniversary of the podcast, I hope to have the upgraded site go live so everything, podcast, blog, etc., is all on one site. I thought you'd like to know that. Thanks for your encouragement of recording into Audio Recorder. I've recently had trouble recording into the computer. I'm doing everything, podcasting, show notes, Ustream, Justin.tv, on my MacBook, but that will change in a few days. I'm getting for Christmas an Zoom H2 Ultra portable digital audio recorder, just like what Father Roderick and other podcasters use. May God continue to bless your work in podcasting and new media and your family. God bless, Daniel.
All right, Daniel, thank you so much for your feedback, and I will try to address the several different things that you had brought up here. First one with your FeedBurner stats. Now, honestly, I have not yet switched over to the new FeedBurner, layout or design just yet. It sounds to me like they might potentially have a new algorithm. It sounds to me like you're not getting the same stats numbers and stuff like that. Here's my recommendation to all podcasters. Do not look at FeedBurner stats for stats on your show. It will be woefully inaccurate. And the reason for this is because it gives you no indication of what's going on for the people who actually are coming to your site and consuming your content right from the website. So therefore, basically what's going on is you could potentially have, 70% of your audience who are subscribed to your RSS feed and are getting your content delivered by checking the RSS feed on a daily basis. However, if you're only looking at that, you're missing out on potentially 30% or even more. And actually, some people who have an audience that reach a less technical group of people, a less technical group of target audience, there's a potential that you could have 60% of your audience that are actually not getting your content from the RSS feed. In fact, I think it was last week we had Todd Clift on the line. He had a majority of his people who were subscribed or who were getting and listening to his content from his Facebook fan page because he was using the RSS Graffiti plugin, which, by the way, the RSS Graffiti is subscribed to the FeedBurner feed. It pulls it into Facebook once, and then it's on Facebook. And from that point forward, and he actually said that, 60%, or I don't know what it was, but a large percentage, that half of his audience or something like that is actually listening from his Facebook fan page. And those are not going to be tracked by FeedBurner. FeedBurner is going to see that as one hit on the feed because RSS Graffiti checked it once and then boom, posted that content to Facebook. And from that point forward, there's no way FeedBurner is going to track those actual MP3 files unless you do go in and you can tell it to recreate some redirect links on those MP3 files, and then it will give you a little bit more data. And then the only thing I can tell you about the difference between those two stats, between the new and the old, is that they may have changed the algorithm. Personally, I'm a huge Libsyn fan, and Libsyn is where I go to for all of my stats. But another place, and I haven't actually ever tried the service out, but it's been around forever. And I'm trying to say if I can think of the name of it right now. It totally is escaping me, but it's where a lot of people are turning to for their advertising, and that is where Leo is still using. And I'm trying to think of the name of them. It's not coming to me, but I'll see if I can get that. Actually, just go to podcastanswerman.com/ nope, I got it. It's Podtrac. podtrac.com. I believe that they have a way that you can actually create a free account. If I'm not mistaken, you could possibly create a free account and you can actually do measurement of your audience that way. So I've never used, I shouldn't say I've never used podcasts. I used Podtrac back in late 2005, early 2006. It wasn't for me, and I decided that I wasn't really going to go to the CPM advertising model, and so I no longer used that service anymore since then. But it sounds to me like some other great people are using Podtrac. They're still going strong today, and you might want to check out the potential of measuring your audience there if you don't have Libsyn's stats available to you. So that again, that's podtrac.com. I'll put a link to that in the show notes when I'm talking about Daniel's feedback here. So let me just go ahead and just really quickly also say congratulations to Daniel for moving over to WordPress from iWeb. I'm excited for you, and I've got another friend of mine. His name's Jeff Gentry. He's recently made the switch over from iWeb over to WordPress. I think you're really going to like it after you get used to it. It does take a little bit to get used to, but once you do, you'll never want to work with another web publishing system. WordPress is simply amazing. And by the way, this great time for me to just quickly mention that I do have an affiliate relationship with Bluehost. If you go to my website at podcastanswerman.com and click on resources, I have an affiliate link there. If you go and click through my link to Bluehost before signing up, you actually generate a pretty significant commission income to me here at podcastanswerman.com. So that'd be awesome if folks out there would consider that when you are thinking about going over to a new shared hosting account. Bluehost, I think it's like $83 or $84 a year for the first year, and it's super easy to create a WordPress podcast, and they even have a tutorial over at podcastanswerman.com on the products page for WordPress for podcasters. Shows you how to create a podcast with WordPress from scratch, setting up your account, walking you through step by step. So go check that out. But anyway, congratulations, and I hope that you do get it up and running over there by January 7th deadline. And Daniel, I did see your unboxing of your Zoom H2 recorder, so congratulations on getting that. I will tell you the microphones on that unit are amazing. So for field recording, that is absolutely great, and it certainly will suffice for sending the audio out of your mixer into that digital audio recorder into the line in input and stuff like that. So congratulations on getting such a wonderful gift. All right, we're going to move into one more question. This one's from Wayne Henderson. Wayne, take it away.
Hey, Cliff. This is Wayne Henderson from the Packers Fan Podcast, calling in for the Podcast Answer Man. And question for you. Have you heard how do we get podcasts into GetGlue these days? It seems like they've gotten a lot more strict and tight as far as what gets in now that they've gone a little more professional. Because I know, about a year ago, I got my Fringe Casting podcast in there with no problem, and I noticed you have quite a few shows in there, and I think they've been there a while. But I have tried everything to try to get my Packers Fan podcast, as well as my Christmas Memories podcast, listed in Get Glued to no avail. I've clicked the suggest this show, under TV or under, other categories, and I've done it repeated times. I've had other listeners do it for me as well, and John Wilkerson even gave me like an email address where I could send like album artwork and show description and URLs and the stuff that might appease them, but nothing has worked. Have you heard anything new, or are podcasts kind of being shut out of the new Get Glue way of doing things? Just checking. Thanks for everything, Cliff. You rock. You are the podcast answer man. Later.
All right, Wayne. Well, thank you for that. And I'll tell you what, the one of the favorite things I have about Podcast Answer Man and being the Podcast Answer Man, I don't have all of the answers, but I do usually have the resources to get those answers. And I have never personally added a podcast to Get Glue. And believe it or not, I'm one of those people. I don't even use Get Glue. As much as I have fan podcasts about TV shows and all this other stuff, Get Glue is a social network that is not something that I really found all that appealing to me personally. But certainly I have a ton of people in the GSPN.TV community that use it. And one person I would consider to be my go-to expert on Get Glue, and he happens to be in our live show chat room right now. His name is Jeff Gentry. He goes by X-Force11. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Jeff if after I get this episode posted online, this is podcastanswerman.com, episode 242, I'm going to ask him in the comment section if he can tell us whether or not, or how he got my podcasts submitted to Get Glue. I know that he did it also for my good friend Daryl Darnell, and whether or not he knows if that's still possible to do. And Jeff will probably, just knowing what I know about my good friend Jeff, is that he will be more than willing to go into the comment section and give us some updated information on this. So Wayne, my recommendation is give me until about Friday or Friday evening to get this thing posted onto podcastanswerman.com. Go to episode 242, look in the comment section. I will actually ask the question in the comment section, and I bet you just about anything that Jeff will do that. In fact, in the chat room, he says he will do. So he'll give us some updated information on whether or not you can get into Get Glue with your podcast, and if so, how. So I love this. I love being in this position, and I'm so thankful for people like Jeff Gentry and stuff like that. Real quickly here, let's see here. Real quick. Each week, I think that I'm going to try to make this a part of it, of Podcast Answer Man, but just a random quick shout out to somebody that that I just want to say congratulations to. This week is to Tommy G. Kendrick. Okay, Tommy G. Kendrick. And of course, he has a brand new podcast over at actorstalkpodcast.com. That's actors, plural, talk, podcast.com. Just launched his very first episode, and he did most everything based upon the free information that I've created at my site that I have at learnhowtopodcast.com. He did have to resort, I believe, to WordPress for podcasters. I think he may have also done thesis theme tutorial, and I believe that he went ahead and got the MDX 4600 compressor limiter gate tutorial. But still, for I think it's about a total of, what would that be? 139, less than $200. He's got his podcast up and running. And by the way, episode number 1 sounds amazing. It really does. So if you just go to actorstalkpodcast.com, click on podcast episodes. Let me just click play for a second and let you hear just how good his very first episode sounds.
This is the Actors Talk Podcast, a podcast for actors of all levels and for other creative artists who are pursuing your dreams. Episode 1. Welcome, everyone, to the Actors Talk podcast. My name is Tommy G. Kendrick, and I am the host here.
There you go. Anyway, sounds absolutely amazing for a first episode. Congratulations to Tommy. And if you guys know any actors, directors, anybody else in the movie industry, send them over to actorstalkpodcast.com. And one last thing I want to mention is that Podcast Answer Man and a bunch of other GSPN.TV related shows are now available on Stitcher. Now, Stitcher I think is a great service, and if you haven't heard of Stitcher, I'll probably have them on for an interview in the very near future here for Podcast Answer Man. But a bunch of folks from the GSPN community and Podcast Answer Man community have been begging them to add Podcast Answer Man and other various shows over to their network, and so they've been asking me, could I please submit, would they mind if I syndicated my content over there? Now, I'm really happy with the fact that Stitcher is a service that is creating, I guess, maybe a whole new directory of podcasts that are made a little bit easier for folks who are new to podcasting to subscribe to them. They basically give you an app and you can subscribe to multiple shows. Here's the cool thing, though, is that they're integrating into things like the Ford Sync. So finally, we're getting applications that are pulling in subscribable RSS feed media content into car stereos. I haven't seen how this all works just yet, but all I know is that this is the indication of the early stages of what I think is going to be the beginning of podcasting going mainstream, to where, just normal, non-tech, non-geeky people on a very large scale being introduced to the amazing content known as, podcasting, such as, audio on demand. Listen to it where you want, pause it in the middle, pick up where you left off. Is there a new episode? Having it delivered to you, saying, here's your next episode that you've subscribed to. This is exciting stuff. Not too excited about the fact that they actually take the content and they recompress it. So they take my already compressed show and then they actually run a process on it after that fact. Not too crazy about that. It actually does reduce the quality of the audio quality of all of my shows on their network. I haven't yet asked them if there's a way that I can get them to stop doing that, but I think that they're trying to just really knock down the file sizes as much as possible and things of that nature. But still, if you go over to stitcher.com/GSPN, you can get the application there. They do have this this crazy thing where you as a podcaster, if you're on there, you can sign up to become an affiliate. You get I think it's $1 for each person that signs up, stuff like that. But anyway, if you use promo code GSPN when downloading the app, I have an affiliate relationship with them there. But honestly, go check out Stitcher, see if it's something that you're interested in. The one big, actually, there are two issues that I have with Stitcher right now. One is that they recompress my content and it doesn't sound as good as I'd like it to. And number two, the big issue I have is that it's this one application, but they don't have the ability for you to add an RSS feed of a podcast that's not in their directory. So it can't be your one-stop shop for all your podcasting needs. You can only listen to and subscribe to content that has been submitted to the Stitcher network. But anyway, hey, anything that gets us into car radios at this point, I'm looking for people to lead the way, and pretty excited about that. All right, my friends, it is time to turn it over to our Where Are They Now podcast interview of the week. This one, my friends, is Scott Ardella. And I'll tell you what, everything that I want you to know about Scott and why I am bringing him into this episode is in the interview. So without any further ado, I am playing that for you right now. All right, my friends, I am on the line with Scott Ardella. Scott, thank you so much for coming on the Podcast Answer Man, my friend.
Cliff, it's my pleasure.
Tell us just a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure, Cliff. Yeah, I have my main website is called stealthbody.com. And I named it that actually have kind of a story. I had a previous website, and I had a unfortunate situation. I had a website and a podcast, and I had a trademark infringement, and I can talk about that in detail if you'd like. But so I'm kind of rebranding with my new website, which is, again, stealthbody.com. And I have just a couple of episodes that have come out so far. And basically what it is it's underground fitness and nutrition for busy people. And what I mean by underground is it's kind of unconventional fitness and nutrition training methods that get serious results. And I've been training myself in fitness, exercising, and background as a physical therapist for about 30 years. And some of the things that I've done just in the past couple of years have just been game changers. And once I kind of discovered these unconventional methods and strategies, I just felt like I needed to share this with the world. So that's kind of what I'm up to these days.
So it sounds to me like you have a passion for health, fitness, and improving people's physical performance in life, and basically taking that message and sharing it with the world.
Absolutely. Because I talk to people, every day. I think there's just so much confusion and misinformation around fitness and nutrition. And, exercise and nutrition just goes hand in hand. And, I just hate to see people do the yo-yo diet thing and do the wrong exercises and the wrong training. And the stuff that I've been doing, the past few years I've been, working in medical sales. So even though I've, been active in fitness and nutrition, my full-time job is actually medical sales. So I basically started this project out of pure passion. Just because I just saw so many people struggling with the wrong information and not doing the right thing to get results. So that's why I started it.
So you did not start this brand or this online endeavor to create income, but to actually share valuable information with the world. Am I hearing that correctly?
Well, both really, because actually I have a DVD product. I have my second physical DVD that's going to be coming out in about a month. So there was income, visions behind it. But the blog, all the information, the articles, the podcast is just giving the best information, help to try to answer questions for people.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I want to go back a little bit because we kind of have a good feeling now where you are today, and we'll get further into what you're doing today and some of the things you're facing. But I want to go back and find out, when did you first hear about podcasting and how?
I think I first heard about podcasting through Jason Van Orden, Internet Business Mastery. And I'm pretty sure that he was the one that mentioned you. And I also heard about you from Pat Flynn on Smart Passive Income. And that's kind of what led me to you, to be honest.
Okay. And do you remember how you heard? Obviously that was the first podcast you listened to, but how did you find Jason Van Orden? Did you meet him in person? Did you read a blog?
No,
how did you come about that first episode? That's the one thing I'd love to just hear, because I think it gives us some insight into how we can reach other people for podcasting.
Yeah, it was probably 3, maybe 4 years ago, something like that. And I think I actually just did a search in iTunes for internet business. Okay. I'm stretching my memory by going back here, but I think that's how I came across. I think I found his podcast, and that got me interested in the whole podcast and internet marketing type thing. And I think that's really where it started.
So it sounds to me like the fact that you had iTunes and you saw that it had these things called podcast, and that's what introduced you to it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So you listened to the first podcast was Internet Business Mastery, kind of moved on from there.
Yep.
When did you first decide to launch your own podcast? From the time that you first decided, how long did it take before you actually had your first episode online?
I think it was about 1.5 years ago. Again, I'm going back. I think after I decided that a podcast, once I officially decided that I was going to do a podcast, let me tell you this. I always had interest in doing a podcast once I kind of heard the model. Once I listened to the Internet Business Mastery guys and said, I always thought that if I was going to do something, a podcast would be a great thing to do. But I think it probably took a little while until I actually did it. I started, buying some information, some books. I think I got a course and learned how to do it. And probably maybe 2 to 3 months after learning how to do it, I got started, and I started the podcast. It's been over a year ago. Now, remember, I probably had about 20 episodes in iTunes, and it was doing very well until I got hit with my trademark situation. I had to take everything down and rebrand it.
Can you tell us what the name of the podcast was before?
Sure. It was called Smart Fitness Coach.
All right. So Smart Fitness Coach, and I would assume you maybe had smartfitness.com or something?
It was smartfitnesscoach.com.
Okay.
Yep.
And so you created this podcast about a year and a half ago, got 20 some odd episodes out there in iTunes.
Yep.
Built a community, I would assume, a pretty significant audience.
I think out of everything I did with, I had some videos, the articles, the podcast, out of everything, the podcast was the thing that generated the most interest, the most traffic, the most feedback. I was interviewing other fitness professionals. So, the benefits of doing that are just endless.
Okay.
It was really just a tremendous thing. And that's why I'm so passionate about getting the new one going, even though I'm running into some problems, unfortunately, right now, just with the feed and things like that. But I'm literally a couple of days away from getting everything straightened out here. So
yeah, those things will get all ironed out. The question I have for you is, okay, so you had this Smart Fitness Coach brand.
Yes. Yep.
Tell me, when did you first get notice that there might be a potential issue with trademarking? And tell us what you can about the way you were communicated that there was an issue.
Yeah, well, the trademark thing, I would love to tell that, because I think that's really going to be a bigger issue moving forward online with websites. So that one really came out of the blue. I literally got an email from an attorney's office with a cease and desist letter, basically saying that everything that was branded with my previous brand, Smart Fitness Coach, had to come down. And the podcast was actually emphasized several times in this letter. As a matter of fact, I think that's how I got on the radar because of the success with the podcast. But it was a rather unfortunate situation. Something, I actually did some homework before I started my whole thing here. But, even with very generic terms, even if you think that your website, your brand has a generic name, if someone else has trademarked that, and they're a big company too, it's a matter of time before you're going to get on their radar. So quite honestly, I'm very happy that it happened, because it forced me. This is something I take very, very seriously. And this brand, I'm going to be around for a long time doing this because it's something I'm very passionate about. And so it forced me to do what I should have done in the beginning, which is trademark my brand, so that everything moving forward, because I had my DVD product, I had to take that down and rebrand it. I had the podcast, I had the website, anything that had that name attached to it, and it was 2 words. It was Smart Fitness. Anything that had Smart Fitness attached to it had to come down.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and the interesting thing is, Cliff, I'll tell you, I've seen a lot of other websites out there because I had to research very extensively my new name and brand, and it had to have meaning to me, what it is that I'm trying to promote and talk about, and what the end result is really. And that's, the name I came up with is Stealth Body. But there are so many websites out there that I came across that have potential trademark issues that are basically time bombs. At some point, they're going to run into trouble because of all the trademark digging that I did on new names.
Right.
And so trying to find the domain name and the trademark name and all that, it all has to be, open for trademarking. If you're serious, if it's something you really want to do, you really have to trademark. If it's just a hobby and you don't see yourself doing anything with it and you're willing to take a risk, then, by all means, if your blog is, not something, other than a hobby, you have nothing to lose until, you get a letter at some point from an attorney's office. Hopefully that won't happen, but
yeah, well,
that's the risk.
What many people may or may not know, well, actually many people will not know this, but people who have been listening from the very beginning may know that I had a trademark issue myself.
Wow.
When I first left my career in insurance and decided I wanted to go into podcasting full-time as my career, I decided I wanted to create a business end of the podcast consulting / coaching. and I wanted to create a website that would do this. At the time, I was already producing Podcast Answer Man as a podcast, but it was just the name of the podcast. It was a part. As a matter of fact, it didn't even have its own website. It was just a category, along with all of my other podcasts at the Generally Speaking Production Network at gspn.tv. So I was going to create this just a standard business website for my new business. And I spent like days trying to think what's the best way to communicate what my business is about. And I thought about, bits, bytes and bits and stuff like that. And then, podcasting and broadcasting. And I wanted to have something that would be generic, unique to me. And so I came up with Bitcast Media. And I did searching all over and I couldn't find anything out there. I found these old podcasts that somebody used to call they would call their episode like a bitcast or something like that, but it was so old and they weren't doing anything with it. So I went ahead and registered bitcastmedia.com and I created my website. After about 3 months of having my business up and running, handing out thousands of business cards and, going out and meeting people at conferences and stuff like that, I got one of those same things that you got. I got a cease and desist letter.
Yeah.
So the thing is that people today probably have heard of this company. It's called BitGravity. They're the people behind Revision 3 and or at least they handle all the content delivery and streaming for Revision 3. They also work with Leo Laporte and Twit and stuff. And the name of the company is BitGravity, but they actually have a technology that they are calling bitcasting, and it's their bitcasting technology, and they had trademarked that technology as Bitcast.
Oh wow!
And so they own the trademark on Bitcast, and so therefore, me being an online streaming content provider, it was obvious that there would be some confusion in the space, and as Bitcast Media. And so they sent me a letter. Now the thing is I didn't have a lawyer at the time. And I'm not a lawyer and I don't pretend to be one on television.
Right.
So what I did is I wrote back and said, you know what, I certainly will change my thing. I'll change my brand. That's no problem. I did not know. I apologize. And it was just very personal. And then they wrote back and they said, that's fine. You have 90 days to transfer the domain to us.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And I wrote back to him and I said, that's fine. You have 90 days to decide whether or not you want to pay me $50,000 for the domain name.
Jeez. Okay.
I said, I will stop using your name. I will stop doing all of this thing. But the thing is, there's no way, unless you're going to pay me lots of money. I've got thousands of people with my business card that actually has cliff@bitcastmedia.com. They wrote back and says, we understand where you're coming from. We'll make, we'll adjust and write you a contract that says contractually that we will forward emails to Cliff that's sent to cliff@bitcastmedia to whatever email you would choose for 12 months. And I said, no, I said, if you want to buy the domain, you can do it. Otherwise, I own it. So today, if you go to bitcastmedia.com, bitcastmedia.com, it will take you to podcastanswerman.com.
Wow.
Okay. And the thing is, I never brought a lawyer into it. All I knew is I had listened to enough of people who were dealing with trademark issues to know that even though you may own a trademark, that doesn't give you the right to force somebody to sell you their domain.
Huh.
And of course, maybe legally doesn't have precedence, but at least I was able to stand up and say, you know what, I am not giving you this domain. I will cease and desist from using it in any and all branding. It's gone. But bitcastmedia.com is my domain, and I will sell it to you for the aforementioned price. And they never took me up on it, and they dropped it as soon as Bitcast Media stopped resolving to anything that said Bitcast Media on it. They just dropped it.
Wow.
So I share my little part of that story. My question is, did you do any pushback on whether or not you had to remove, or did you try to negotiate keeping your content but just rebranding it?
No, I didn't really. I got an attorney immediately, and basically their demand, I guess, or request, whatever you want to call it, was to take everything down within 14 days. Yep. So it was very quick, very quick. And I'll be honest, Cliff, I was actually thinking about rebranding to a different name anyway.
Yeah.
I just had that in the back of my head. So I didn't feel like I was married to that name at all. If I was, it might have been different. Maybe I would have played hardball like you did. But because I wasn't, so, I don't know. I just felt like even before it happened, I was contemplating a name change. And I absolutely love the name that I have now because it just means a lot to me. It's actually benefit rich. And it really is what I teach. I mean, Stealth Body is, like I said, unconventional, underground fitness and nutrition. And that's exactly what I teach. It's not the typical run-of-the-mill stuff that you hear about in exercise and nutrition. It's very different what I do. So I loved it. And
yeah. And that's, again, same thing for me. One of the things is that, and I think this is an important aspect to bring out of these trademark things, is that I don't want to scare people, because here's the thing. As a consultant / coach in podcasting, the one thing that I want to avoid is giving another excuse for people to be stuck and paralyzed in fear of what to do. Right. Because here's the thing. I don't know about you, Scott. When I started Podcast Answer Man, when I started Bitcast Media, when I started all of this stuff, I didn't have a dime to pay for an attorney. I didn't, and you know what? I heard that it's like, well, you can go and trademark things on your own. If it only cost $150 at the time, guess what? At that time, I didn't have $150.
Yeah.
So do I just not move forward? No. What did I do? I created Bitcast Media. It literally was painful for me to spend $50 on 1,000 business cards before I headed out to PodCamp Boston 5. But by golly, I bought 1,000 business cards and I gave away 1,000 business cards.
Wow, that's great.
And
that's great.
And the thing is it's like, I'm not married. I wasn't married to the name Bitcast Media, but I was married to that email address that was on 1,000 business cards.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's like, dude, this is the only way people know me, that they're going to pull out my card one day and want to talk to this guy, Cliff Ravenscraft. And I'm glad I did, because here's the thing. I actually had the folks behind Panasonic contact me a few months after PodCamp Boston. It was actually PodCamp Boston 2. And the folks at Panasonic reached out to me and says, hey, listen, we want to bring you in as one of our guest bloggers / podcasters to cover CES for us. We'll give you all expenses paid trip, pay for everything for you. And all we ask you, and by the way, we're going to give you a bunch of equipment, podcast, or a bunch of camera equipment, Panasonic equipment for free. But you'll have to disclose that. But all of this, and we just want to invite you because we know that you're a person of influence. And all of that became from that. And if I would have given away, if I didn't fight for that email address, I would have never got that email.
Yeah. Wow. So it worked out.
So so basically, for those of you who are out there and think it's like, oh yeah, just that's another thing I need to do is get a trademark attorney. Yeah. And here's the thing, I was going to do it for a business. I literally didn't have the money to do it. I would recommend that you do as much due diligence as possible. And if you can afford to do so, certainly seek out a trademark attorney. But, I know I'm going to get the emails, but my philosophy is sometimes it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to get permission. And one of the things that certainly if you know somebody has a trademark, then by golly, don't infringe upon it. But I looked all over for Bitcast. I couldn't find anybody else doing anything with Bitcast, and I just created it. And I went several months, and then finally, when I started creating some stuff and word got out, people are like, "Hey, did you know that this guy's using this thing? He's calling it Bitcast Media. Isn't that your trademark?" And that letter that I got was, I'm assuring you, it was just as nasty and just as demanding as the one that you got. It came, you could tell. And I wrote back and I said, listen, dude, I'm going to tell you right now, you're talking to an individual. I am sorry, apologetic. I'm a human being. Let me tell you, I know you're a big corporation. I'm a little guy just starting out. I didn't mean to do anything. Let's talk this thing out. And of course they did write back, and they still used big words, and they still wrote demanding things, but they did show a willingness to have a conversation with me to kind of negotiate how this was all going to happen. And every single email / letter that because they always, every email they sent me a copy of a letter registered. Every one of them was still demanding, still not just demanding, but the other word, they were threatening.
Threatening. Okay.
Every communication from them was threatening. But I finally came to the place where it's like, you know what? I'm not doing anything maliciously to hurt you. I'm trying to work. The only thing is you got to understand that I understand my rights to be that I own this domain and you can't take it from me. And as long as I change everything and I keep anything from having that, that confusion of brand,
sure,
then I can do this. So I think what I'm hearing from you is that it sounds to me like you're still doing okay today.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, everything I learned in the past year with the podcast, with the the marketing, traffic and all that stuff. I mean, all the content was mine, so it really didn't matter. It was more a bump in the road, kind of a headache. And like I said, I'm actually happy about it because I like the name so much more. And now, I own the brand, and this will never happen again. I mean, I have to say, Cliff, I'm fortunate that I was in a situation that I could, financially afford to get a trademark.
Yep.
Thank goodness. And again, this is just something I'm highly committed to, and I'm so excited about the podcast. The chat session that we had last spring, everything that you told me to do, I've done. I mean, I basically went back and got all the equipment upgrades, and I still go back and listen to our session. And you gave me so much information during that. I think it was almost 2 hours or so we were on the phone, and so much information. I thank you, really for giving me all that great information. And I still go back and listen to that because there's still things that I'm implementing based on that conversation. So, and the podcast is something, I don't know if you remember, but back in the spring, I just talked about how many benefits there are to doing a podcast, how much I enjoy it, and something I want to do for a long, long time. And that's exactly what I'm doing now. Now I don't have to, look over my shoulder anymore. So in that sense, it's really exciting.
The next thing I want to ask you is, how often are you producing your show?
My goal is 2 times a month. That's what I was doing last time around. And with everything else, I do a lot of writing. I'm actually working on a book, and that's taking a lot of time. And then I do the posts on the site, and then videos, which is something. So I don't have any videos on the new site, but I had them on the old site. And so those 3 things are a lot. Writing, podcasting, and video, because I'm trying to hit all different media channels. And in fitness, and especially with the particular area of fitness that I teach, the videos are really critical. But like I mentioned, I love the podcast. I love writing. So there's a lot there. So 2 episodes a month is very reasonable for me to do.
Excellent. And it sounds to me like what I'm hearing you is when you say video, I hear you separating that from what I hear you saying, the word podcasting. And I assume that you think video is one thing and podcasting is audio podcasting. Yeah,
that's the way. I know that I can do the same thing, actually, and that's a good idea. I don't know if I've really thought deeply about doing the video podcasting, which I certainly could do. I'll have to give that some more thought. Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I kind of always did see that as a separate thing, but realistically, I don't have to do that.
So right now, I would assume that you're doing video. Am I right to assume that that's in YouTube? You got a YouTube channel and you throw it up there and then embed it into your site?
Yes.
Yeah. So obviously, it sounds to me like you put a lot of care, attention, and effort into these videos. And in my mind, I would imagine that probably a separate RSS feed created just for those videos, taking the videos, the raw video that you're sending up to YouTube for them to transcode. If you just turn that into, let's just say, an H.264 M4V file and create a separate category on your blog and create an RSS feed for it and send that to iTunes, then all of a sudden you have both the video podcast that you could actually have a different podcast name for it, or you could it could be the Stealth Body Video Edition, and then you have the Stealth Body Audio Edition.
Right.
So just
that's a great idea. Great idea.
You're already creating the content, and what's amazing is you're going to have a lot of people who are going to see that. And the cool thing is that people can bring that stuff into like their Roku boxes and just various other platforms that, the iPads, bringing it in that way. I think that you'll just add new subscribers. It's not going to hurt you. It's not a ton of extra work either.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a great idea, Cliff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your video for a minute. What kind of camera do you use?
I use the is it the ZI-4? I think
the ZI-8, the Kodak ZI-8.
Yes, that's it.
Excellent.
It. Yeah. And the thing I like about that is the external mic.
Absolutely.
Compared to the like the flip video and things like that. I think that really makes a big difference.
I think it does as well. Creating video with good audio is going to set you apart from like 90% of the other audio or video out there.
Yeah.
What about lighting? Did you spend any money getting kind of lighting to kind of light yourself up inside?
No, the few videos that I've done have pretty much been outside, because what I'll do is I'll demonstrate kettlebells, for example. I mean, that's actually the big focus of Stealth Body is kettlebell training. And I can just do that outside in the park. And the couple of videos I did were either outside, or what I didn't mention is I have a friend here in South Florida that owns a studio. And that's where I actually filmed my DVD. And I'm getting ready to film the second DVD. And I've done a couple of short video clips in his studio. So he has the background, the lighting, the professional camera, all that stuff.
Wow, it's nice to have a friend like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So in the online world, are you connecting with other people in the fitness arena online, other podcasters who are podcasting about fitness and nutrition and health?
I'm connecting with other people in my niche, not so much the podcasters yet. Actually, that was a huge tip that you told me about when we had our conversation back in the spring. And I have been really kind of building my relationships with other people that I've met through networking at conferences, and also some of the certification type things that I've gone to for my own training. So really live networking has been really huge for me. But I know that reaching out to other podcasters is definitely a great platform. And I'll tell you, Cliff, I have so many people to interview. I mean, basically 9 out of 10 people I ask to interview, say yes. So I have people scheduled for interviews, and I can't even keep track with interviewing them. You know what I mean? Because I have so many people, months ago that I said, hey, can I interview you? And they've said, yeah, absolutely. And I had to interview other people that I asked prior to them. So I just have a huge list, but it's just great, because it really, obviously, when you interview someone, you get to know them better. They're sharing great information. You're helping them build their brand, and you're still building your brand. You're learning a lot. I mean, the interview is just incredible. And that's another huge reason I'll be doing the podcasts and audio type things for a long time to come, because of the benefits of relationship building with the interviews.
Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+. Which of those are your favorite, if you're using any of them at all?
Not so much LinkedIn. I'll start with that. Probably Twitter. I use a couple of tweets a day. That's really about it. I try to not spend a lot of time on that, but I'll try to get in 10-15 minutes a day. Facebook now, have a Facebook fan page that's starting to get some traffic and some interaction there. So those are two of my favorites. I do have the Google Plus as well. I really haven't gotten into that so much yet at this point.
I'll tell you what, it's a lot of fun. The biggest thing I've learned from Google Plus, or the biggest thing I've had a great experience with in Google Plus, is the Hangouts. If you're into like building community with people, it's kind of nice to kind of maybe let people know, hey, I'm going to do a hangout at such and such a time, and then give them a link to your Google Plus profile, and then at that time go into Google Plus, create a hangout, and then what I do is I often will go into Twitter and Facebook and those other places and put a link and says, hey, for the next 30 minutes I'm going to be doing a Google Hangout, and then posting a link back to your profile page on Google Plus, and then you can connect with up to 10 people in a video conference, and it's a neat experience. And here's what I've learned is and this is what I've learned in all of the content that I've produced online, is that the people you connect to relationally those are the ones who really become your fan base. And I hate using the word fans, but I think it's the way that people understand it. They are the ones who tell other people about you and your brand. They're the people who become the evangelists for what you're doing because you're connecting with them at a very personal level. And so that's one of the things that I've liked about Google Plus is, and the best thing about it, this is one of the things that I love is having these relationships with people. But the question becomes, how do you scale this? Because I'm still at a place where I desire to answer every single email that comes in. And what I ran into was the fact that I got to the place where there's just no time in the day to answer every email that came in. And I realized that what I wanted to do is plug people into relationship with each other. And so what's amazing is I might have Scott Ardella here, and I know you because we've interacted, but then I might have over here a Steve Howard, and I might have over here a Tony DiLorenzo. And it just so happens that out of random chance, all of us are in a hangout with a total of 10 of us there. And then all of a sudden I say, wow, Scott, you really need to get to know Tony DiLorenzo. He does this smart fit marriage and this other stuff. This is great for you two to connect with each other. And the next thing you know, you guys are starting to connect. You're looking at each other's content. You're interviewing each other. And all of a sudden, he's got a couple thousand people subscribed to him, and now they're checking out some of your stuff, vice versa, those kind of things. And that's what I love about the Google Plus.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll be honest, Google Plus is something, out of all the social media sites, that's the one I know the least about at this point. So, but just sounds great.
Yeah, the thing is people will tell you got to do all of this and all. You just do what you have time for. Yeah. The important thing is that you're reaching out and building relationships with people. Is that something that you desire to do with your brand, or is it mostly, and I always hate to ask this question because it almost seems like I'm opposed to anybody who's not looking to build a community, and I'm not. It's just the concept of not building a community around your content is foreign to me. It's not that it's a bad thing. So is building a community around what you're doing, is that a desire? Is that a goal of yours?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the last podcast episode I recorded, I actually just recorded in the past 24 hours, but I did like a Q&A format, and I really asked on this episode for people to get back to me with their questions. These are common questions that I hear, and that's how I presented it in the podcast. But I want to hear from the listeners, what their big questions are about the methods that I use. And that's what it's all about. Is really, knowing what's important to your listeners, to your readers, subscribers, and helping them get what they want. I mean, that's really my goal.
Absolutely. Very cool. Where can people find you online as far as your home base on the web?
Yeah, the main website is stealthbody.com. And you can communicate there, comments on the blog, or all the links to all my social media, other, sites and outlets are on that site as well. So stealthbody.com.
Scott, thank you so much for coming and sharing your experience with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Cliff. Thank you so much.
Well, my friends, there you go. That's my interview with Scott. I hope that it has been beneficial to you and that you were able to pull out some wonderful insights that you can apply to your own journey in the world of podcasting. Real quickly here, I just want to re-emphasize how important it is to not let too many things scare you from getting started. Here's the big takeaway. I shared my journey of how I started out and called my business Bitcast Media and went a couple of months and handed out lots of business cards. But guess what? I got the cease and desist letter. I came out on the other side, and it didn't really have a major impact on me overall. And in fact, it kind of led me into something bigger and better. Podcast Answer Man's a much better brand than Bitcast Media. So I'm very happy that everything worked out the way that it did. Same thing with Scott. I mean, you have the fact is that you have he has stealthbody.com now. That's something he likes a whole lot more than Smart Fitness Coach. So, there's so many out there right now that you have paralysis by analysis. go out, come up with a brand, come up with something. And if you have the money to do all the trademark research and stuff like that, and it's really important that you want to turn this into a business, by all means, do the trademark. Do it. It just makes sense to. But if you don't have the resources, the information, and all that stuff, do as much as you can to make sure that it's not something that's already trademarked, that there's no other conflicting information out there, and then just start it. Just start it. That's my recommendation. It really is, because don't let trademarking be that next thing that keeps you from launching your podcast. It's just not good to have all these excuses. Anyway, my friends, I do hope that this podcast continues to be meaningful to you, and that it has been meaningful here in 2011. I'm looking forward to 2012. Some big things are on the horizon for me, for GSPN.TV, for my consulting and coaching, for a group of podcasters that I'm looking forward to lead into some pretty big things. So more details on that coming very soon. Until next time, my friends, I encourage you to take your show to the next level.